Welcome back, friends. So nice to be with you again. We're going to be dipping into Tolkien, as I am wont to do. In fact, we're into The Hobbit today. I broke it open because I wanted to get back to the rich words at the beginning of The Hobbit. So, for context, we're right now inside of Bilbo's little hobbit hole, and things are very quaint. Things are sort of in order, but the dwarves have come, and they're starting to disrupt his whole world. And we're going to get to see one of their poems, and it's just a beautiful poem, and it rings of all things dwarvish. So we're going to see words like mountains and gold and hammers. These are just dwarfish. They're dwarfish words. And I think the same thing exists in every culture. There's some words that are just so familiar, they're ingrained into the ethos of that culture or that ethnicity or that religion. And I'm lamenting how in the West our vocabulary has dwindled to almost nothing. In fact, there's words that are seemingly meaningless that are coming out of meme culture, and they're infiltrating our vocabulary, especially of young people. And words are just vehicles of thought. So if you degrade a language enough, then you degrade the thought of that people. And I really don't want that to happen in the West. I think we need to revive a lot of these words. And like the dwarves, revel and relish in these words. Embrace them as our heritage. Perhaps I'll give you some examples in American culture or British culture of these sorts of words and how they've passed out of vogue and how I think we should bring them back into daily usage. But first, let's read a little bit. The dark filled all the room, and the fire died down, and the shadows were lost, and still they played on. And suddenly first one and then another began to sing as they played, deep-throated singing of the dwarves in the deep places of their ancient homes. And this is like a fragment of their song, if it can be like their song without their music. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day to seek the pale enchanted gold. The dwarves of yore made mighty spells, while hammers fell like ringing bells in places deep where dark things sleep, in hollow halls beneath the fells. For ancient king and elvish lord, there many a gleaming golden hoard they shaped and wrought, and light they caught to hide in gems on hilt of sword. On silver necklaces they strung the flowered stars, on crowns they hung the dragon fire in twisted wire. They meshed the light of moon and sun. Far over the misty mountains cold, to dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away ere break of day to claim our long-forgotten gold. Goblets they carved there for themselves, and harps of gold where no man delves. There lay they long, and many a song was sung unheard by men or elves. The pines were roaring on the height, the winds were moaning in the night, the fire was red at flaming spread, the trees like torches blazed with light. The bells were ringing in the dale, and men looked up with faces pale. The dragon's ire more fierce than fire laid low their towers and houses frail. The mountains smoked beneath the moon. The dwarves, they heard the tramp of doom. They fled their hall to dying fall, beneath his feet, beneath the moon. Far over the misty mountains grim, to dungeons deep and caverns dim, we must away ere break of day to win our harps and gold from him. As they sang, the hobbit felt the love of beautiful things made by hands, and by cunning, and by magic moving through him, a fierce and jealous love, the desire of the heart of dwarves. Then something tookish woke up inside him, and he wished to go and see the great mountains, and hear the pine trees and the waterfalls, and explore the caves, and wear a sword instead of a walking stick. He looked out of the window. The stars were out in the dark sky above the trees. He thought of the jewels of the dwarves shining in dark caverns. Suddenly, in the wood beyond the water, a flame leapt up, probably somebody lighting a wood fire. And he thought of plundering dragons settling on his quiet hill and kindling it all to flame. He shuddered, and very quickly he was plain Mr. Baggins of Bag End, Underhill again. It's just beautiful. And again, I'm going back to I don't know, English American heritage and some words that we've lost, because as you can see, those words, just the mere mention of mountains, for example, it springs up the story, the lore of, where the dwarves settled and how they made their living, and their craft. That's kind of what they're known for in the Lord of the Rings. And so in the West, certain words have fallen out of vogue, like to christen or Christendom, mainly Christian words. Even some fancier words that just roll off the tongue, prestidigitation, presentiment. These words are so lovely, but people, if they don't know them, they won't speak them. And if they don't speak them, they can't articulate themselves as properly as they could. They can't convey ideas. So I guess this is just an encouragement to get back into old literature. Read over 100 years ago. That's a good rule of thumb. 100, 200, 300 years ago. And then every time you see a word that you don't understand, I have a little notebook. I don't know if it's around here somewhere, but I just jot down, it's sort of like one of these guys. I just jot down the word, and then I look up the definition later, and I try to memorize it. I try to use it in a sentence the same day, and that works for me. So I hope you find your own method. I hope you get to enjoy a little bit of wordplay today, and God's blessings to you.